Dr. Ken Landa. Thanks for watching. Let's talk about turmeric. Turmeric, or Indian saffron. It comes from a plant known as curcuma. There are more than 100 different species of the plant. So we have Curcuma longa, that's the best known, Curcuma aromatica, Curcuma domestica, all related to ginger. They grow perennially throughout India and Bangladesh and Myanmar and China and Nigeria. Seems they also grow in Central America. It grows where the area is tropical in nature, temperature averages 70 to 90 degrees, lots of annual rainfall. Sales of turmeric supplements are booming worldwide. 50% of the sales are here in the United States. It's one of the fastest growing dietary supplements, increased in sales by about 7-fold over just a decade ago. It's made from the turmeric root. So if we look at the turmeric root, or the rhizome, what do we find? Well, we find a polyphenolic compound known as curcumin, but curcumin, which accounts for anywhere between about 1 and 6% of the root, has a bunch of other similar related compounds. So we don't really call it just curcumin, we call it the curcuminoids. So there are at least 3 different major components. Then in addition to the curcuminoids, the rhizome also has the essential oils that are volatile. That gives it the flavor. That's about 3 to 7% of the content. Then we have fiber accounting for 2 to 7%. Minerals account for 3 to 7%. The protein accounts for 6 to 8%. And then we have the fat that accounts for 5 to 10%. None of this is active. Moisture, 6 to 13%. And then we have carbohydrates. But the only medicinal component appears to be the curcuminoids, of which curcumin is the most important. Now in India and Thailand, we have more than 40 different species in each country of this plant. The plant typically grows to about 3 to 5 feet tall, has oblong leaves that are dull yellow colored flowers. We have the root. The root is yellowish in color externally, but if we cut it and look internally, it seems to be a deep orangish, reddish, brown color. Well, the rhizomes are collected, and they're cleaved, and they're boiled, and they're dried, then they're extracted, then they're sold as capsules and tablets and teas and extracts and powders that can be made into pastes for skin conditions, used for mouthwashes and enemas. Those are the medicinal and the food preparation products that come from the turmeric. Well, the Javanese turmeric, that's a completely different plant, different properties. So it appears that turmeric is on the generally regarded as safe list. It's common use for cooking over the period of many centuries. It's a flavor. It's a major ingredient in curry powder and mustard and other products. Gives the warm and the bitter taste. Has a yellow color, and the yellow color is frequently used to make the cheese yellow and the macaroni and cheese yellow and the butter yellow. We have people over a period of the past 20 years or so willing to sell you curcumin in the form of tablets for a list of ailments that are longer than anyone's arm. From Alzheimer's disease to upset stomach. It's good for whatever ails you. However, curcumin has never been shown to be conclusively effective for any medical condition. It's used in Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Indian medicine, for many centuries, for many different conditions. It's used for asthma and allergies and liver disease and sprains and rheumatism. It's used for wounds and cough and sinusitis. Used for abdominal pain and heart-related disorders. And now people are using it as dietary supplement. And the dietary supplements are being hawked as anti-inflammatory components equivalent to ibuprofen in osteoarthritis. Used for a variety of stomach and skin and liver and gallbladder ailments, intestinal gas. Used to prevent or to treat cancer. Used to improve your memory or treat infections and kidney stones, decrease cholesterol. Take care of itch due to kidney failure, improve anxiety and depression and insect bites, and burns and chicken pox and inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. It prevents, supposedly, fatty liver, treats inflammation inside the mouth, inside the eye, the uveitis, reduces the likelihood of cataracts, treats erectile dysfunction, baldness. It's a fertility booster, treats hangovers, actually is contraceptive to boot. Well, supposedly it decreases the growth of a variety of cancerous tumors. Not only does it prevent them, it treats them. So supposedly improves prostate cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer, leukemia, a variety of intestinal cancer. And supposedly it also can alter the bacteria of the intestine, the microbiota. And that can lead to a decrease in peptic ulcer disease, inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, supposedly. If you suffer from some sort of an ailment and you're losing weight, you have cachexia, supposedly helps that too. So the spice is generally considered to be safe at a dose of up to about 20 milligrams per serving, and that's based on the essential oil, the oleoresin that happens to be in turmeric. But if we look in the laboratory at the way curcumin, which is the medicinal portion supposedly, let's see how it operates in the laboratory. Well, it falls into the category of what we've known as the pan-assay interference compounds. That means it interferes with the readout of an enormous variety of laboratory tests. It doesn't do that through specific interactions with the target. It just changes the laboratory assay, the reading that we get. And that gives us false information. It also fits into the IMPS category. The IMPS category is invalid metabolic panacea. There are about 100 different compounds that we know of that interfere with a variety of reactions in the laboratory. So this particular substance, curcumin, seems to participate in every undesirable behavior that's possible in the laboratory, and that's what leads to so much of the supposed benefit. It's poorly absorbed through the intestine. It's used in Indian cooking when they heat it in fat to increase the absorption, supposedly, but it binds to iron in the gastrointestinal tract, and because it binds to iron, it prevents the absorption, and that leads to the potential for iron deficiency anemia. It's rapidly metabolized in both the liver and the intestine. If it happens to get there, goes through extensive first-pass metabolism, so that would mean that you have to have about 4,000 milligrams, or more than 4 grams, of the substance that you consume in order to find any in the plasma. Well, supposedly, if you add a little bit of black pepper, that's going to be able to increase the absorption. So it's often sold with some black pepper in a ratio of 100 parts curcumin to 20 parts to 1 part of the black pepper. And how did they get that idea? Well, it was an Indian company that sells the spices that came up with the idea, and they supposedly did some laboratory tests. They did some laboratory tests, and that's what they found. Well, supposedly the black pepper works by increasing the intestinal absorption and decreasing the liver metabolism of the curcumin. Well, the substance is known as piperine. The piperine is the product in the black pepper that supposedly gives us this miraculous benefit. Anyway, so they're trying to find other substances that might increase the absorption. So they're looking at liposomal encapsulation and nanoparticles and making certain emulsions and sustained release forms and complexing it with glycerin and the phospholipids, all to get more of the substance in the body. But right now, doesn't seem to be very much that can be absorbed. Well, what could be the potential side effects of taking the curcumin or the turmeric? Well, there could be a lot of potential side effects. So nausea and upset stomach and diarrhea are not that uncommon. Some people, if they get it on the skin, can get a contact urticaria or eczema. Supposedly can decrease the testosterone, decrease the sperm motility. And some people it causes difficulty breathing, allergic reaction with swelling of the face and the tongue and the lips. can increase the oxalic level in the system. And if you have too much of oxalate, that can lead to the formation of kidney stones, but probably most importantly, it can decrease the iron absorption. And if it decreases the iron absorption, it may predispose to anemia of iron deficiency. And it's associated with, at times, either a hepatitis or a change in the conduction system of the heart. Well, drug-induced liver injuries, not all that uncommon, in cases are reported from turmeric or from the curcumin. And it can seemingly decrease the effectiveness of certain kind of chemotherapy in treating breast cancer. So that's obviously an important factor if it prevents the breast cancer cells from dying. And it also seems that it interferes with certain kind of chemotherapy like Cytoxan and doxorubicin and irinotecan. Can interfere with tacrolimus that's used as a medicine to prevent organ rejection in people who have transplant. Increases the level, might lead to more side effects. Increases the toxicity from Taxol. Taxol is a medicine that's routinely used for cancer chemotherapy. Well, it can cause it to cause more liver damage. Now, it's often sold as an herbal supplement, and unfortunately, it doesn't have any specific manufacturing regulations or standards. So that means some of the supplements are going to contain metals, toxic metals. And it could potentially lead to an increase in bleeding, especially if you combine it with the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or aspirin or certain other kind of products. So it's suggested that if you're taking the turmeric or the curcumin, that you stop it a couple weeks before you have some dental work or surgery. And also probably not a good idea to take it with other compounds that might lead to increased bleeding, maybe like some evening primrose oil or garlic or ginger or ginkgo, or even saw palmetto. And it seems that the substance, the curcumin, might inhibit certain drug metabolizing enzymes. So even if it could get into the body, it might cause other drugs that you take to build up in the system because they can't be metabolized correctly. So that's obviously a very important issue, since about 50% of all of the medicines are metabolized through those liver enzymes that might be impacted by the curcumin. And it can also lead to an increase in the concentration of Versed or verapamil in your system. For pregnancy and lactation, we don't have any information on whether it's safe or not, but there are reports where curcumin has been used as an abortifacient and stimulates uterine contracture. So probably not a good substance to take at medicinal levels. Flavor levels, spice levels, probably okay. Now, we have a problem where people are getting a little bit ahead of the game here on what they're using the turmeric for. So there was just recently a case where a young San Diego woman who had eczema went to see her naturopath, and the naturopath injected her intravenously with turmeric, and she died of cardiopulmonary arrest. Well, the naturopaths claim that IV turmeric can be an efficient use for certain kind of medicines, effective use, efficient use for inflammatory bowel disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's disease and blood disorders and cancer. In fact, they're advertising a 1-hour infusion of turmeric for $200 after you go through an initial evaluation that costs about $200 to $400. They say it's safe and tolerable and it's non-toxic, even at high doses. Obviously, all false. Well, if you go buy a supplement, chances are it's going to be about 500 milligrams. Take it 1 to 3 times a day. You take it with or without food. Does it work? Probably not. It's been tried at doses up to 8,000 milligrams every day. Now, you've got to remember that most of the substance that supposedly is going to be medicinally active is going to be the curcumin. Now, have any tests been done with the curcumin? Yes, some have. And they found that 1,500 milligrams of curcumin and 15 milligrams of black pepper supposedly was as good as ibuprofen at a dose of 1,200 milligrams a day, or glucosamine for pain of osteoarthritis or muscle soreness after exercise, post-operative pain, dental pain, after you've had your molars removed. Doubtful on that one. An interesting study was done at multiple different institutions. It looked at about 600 patients who were having elective surgery on their aorta. And what they found was that supplementing people with turmeric, their curcumin, didn't provide any benefits as far as heart attacks after surgery or kidney injury or death was concerned. And just recently, an article was published in Molecular Nutrition and Food Research in May of 2018. They looked at 87 unique turmeric dietary supplements, and they found that about 60% didn't meet the USP criteria for turmeric derivatives. They found that there was a suggestion that synthetic curcumin was being used. They found lead in one of the products. They found residues of toxic class 1 and class 2 solvents in more than 70% of the products. That's important because those are the substances that can lead to injury and, unfortunately, cancer at too high doses over too long a period of time. They found that about 50% of the products that they examined had chemicals added that supposedly enhanced the bioavailability. The piperine, that's the stuff from the black peppers, that was in about 25% of the products. But the variation was 13-fold. In other words, there was about a 1,300% variation of the product, amount of the piperine. And they found that most of the products that had the piperine weren't even labeled as having it. Well, they also found those solvents. Solvents were detected in basically all of the products. The median number of solvents was 2 per product, and 1 in 7 products contained more than 4 solvents. Now, these solvents are carcinogenic class 1 or toxic class 2 solvents. They were in 70%. Toluene was in 70%. That's in paint thinners and glue and cement and permanent markers. That substance can lead to tiredness and confusion and weakness and memory loss and nausea. We also found about 50% of the products contained a class 3 solvent, ethyl acetate. So the researchers find that lead levels are present in the turmeric supplements, about 500-fold more than the natural limits. Seems that people add lead to turmeric. So the way they found that out was a researcher from Stanford University went over to Bangladesh and evaluated the product from 7 of 9 distributors, or evaluated 9 distributors, and found that in 7 of the 9 distributors, the turmeric had added lead-based yellow pigment. And that yellow pigment with the lead is toxic to the brain, decreases the IQ, disrupts normal development. And since 2011, about 12 or more brands of turmeric from Bangladesh and India have been recalled because of excessive lead. But remember, they're not routinely examined, not routinely evaluated by any governmental organization. So that means that more than 12 products were just tested at random. And that means that they're probably missing the majority of product. Why do they add the lead? They add the lead because it's yellow. And there's a consumer demand for yellow compounds. So lead-based yellow or chromate pigment is used as an adulterant in 7 of the 9 distributors. And they add it during the polishing phase. That practice began only about 30 years ago. And that was a way to take some of the poor quality root and increase the profit. The individuals who were adding it, these are poor people who are uneducated, and they add the product. They don't even know that the lead is a neurotoxin. They just satisfy the wholesalers. Now, 1 in 6 of the products with curcumin has more than 90% of curcumin rather than just the curcuminoids. But we know that the curcumin only accounts for about 50 to 60% of the content of the curcuminoids. So what's that mean? That means that in a significant number of products that you buy, they use synthetic curcumin. So synthetic curcumin because the concentration isn't exactly correct. So what does that mean as far as bioequivalence? What does that mean as far as you're taking it? What's that mean as far as it being healthy or not healthy? There's no information about the synthetic curcumin, whether it's good for you or not. Once it gets into the body, supposedly the metabolism is terrible. It's going to go out in about half a minute. That's the half-life of the product. Remember, the bioavailability is less than 1%. Can't measure it in most people's bloodstream when they're taking their curcumin. We know it's distributed variably in the body. Seems to relate more to the preparation of the dose and the extraction method that's used. But remember, any absorbed product is going to go out extraordinarily rapidly, especially in the feces, more so than the urine. So the chemical is practically insoluble in water at room temperature and a neutral pH. Going to degrade by exposure to light, auto-oxidizes itself, and unfortunately, it's chemically unstable. So the interesting story about the cancer with the curcumin goes back to stories that came out in 2016, the Houston Chronicle. They had articles about a prominent Houston scientist who was under investigation at MD Anderson Cancer Center. Why was he under investigation? Because of alleged manipulation of research data. This gentleman published more than 500 papers in the medical literature. 7 of them were cited more than 1,000 times. But then a whistleblower alleged that Dr. Bharat Agarwal, he manipulated the data on the anti-cancer properties of the plant-derived chemicals, especially curcumin. That was in 65 publications. So one journal, the Biochemical Pharmacology, in February of 2016, they retracted 7 of his articles. That was after another journal rejected, or retracted rather, several of the articles. 2 expressed concern, multiple corrections in different journals. Well, Dr. Agarwal retired from MD Anderson in 2015, but continues to be active. First human subject in clinical trials for curcumin goes back only to 1937. If you go to clinicaltrials.gov, those are all of the trials that are legitimate, basically, that are being done in the country. And we find that curcumin is being done in 170 different trials. 14 are complete, information not available in most of them. Turmeric in 43 trials, 3 of them are complete. They overlap significantly between the turmeric and the curcumin studies. The studies are generally small. The results where they are published, not particularly encouraging. No curcumin trial has ever reported any convincing positive results. Consumers Reports in October of 2019 tested turmeric and echinacea, and they said that they had concerns over at least 1/3 of the products, especially the CVS Health turmeric curcumin. Said higher levels of lead than Consumer Report standards, higher level of bacteria. Supplements are not held to the same high level as pharmaceutical drugs. You can make almost any health claim about these substances. Marketing of turmeric is based on small and basically unblinded studies. Studies where vested interests are involved. You talk about, well, it's a natural product, so a natural product must be okay. Tobacco's natural, so is arsenic. So is a rattlesnake bite, or the bite of a brown recluse spider. So natural doesn't necessarily mean healthy. Well, the organization of the National Institutes of Health that studies these complementary substances or these supplements called the NCCIH, National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. They say we don't have sufficient reliable information to recommend turmeric or curcumin for any condition. The Dietary Supplement and Education Act, 1994, they left the oversight of all of these products to the manufacturer. They said the FDA should, in effect, butt out. So if you're going to go buy any of the products, the least you can do is look for a label that's marked Consumers Lab or USP or NSF, so at least somebody has done some kind of testing. And be aware that the cheaper the product, cheaper the turmeric product, the more likely it is to contain synthetic curcumin. And again, we don't know how safe these products are because they contain solvents that are in the class 1 category that can lead theoretically to cancer. They contain lead, a little bit of turmeric sprinkled on your latte or in a smoothie. Well, that's probably okay. But more, I'd be a little cautious. So turmeric and curcumin, more properly the curcuminoids, do we have sufficient information on them to say that they're beneficial? Yes, if we're talking about flavor, but does it really improve your health? At present, it's all hype. There is no good scientific information that shows that turmeric or curcumin is beneficial to humans. And worse yet, it can interfere with certain medicines that you take. It can cause iron deficiency anemia. It can cause unwanted bleeding. So turmeric and curcumin, I think we can say that they're just not ready for prime time. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. Consider subscribing so you'll be notified as we post new videos. I appreciate your interest. I'm Dr. Ken Landau.